Hey guys, welcome to Star Wars Timeline. My name is Ben. Today's character highlight is about Darth Revan. As always, this video is split into 3 parts. First, we'll look at his story overview. Next, we'll talk about his Jedi abilities as well as his personality traits. At the end, I'll give you my personal impression of this character and what I hope to see in the future. As always, guys, thank you so much for all of your support. If you enjoy my character highlights video, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss future content. Anyway, let's jump right into it. So, quick story overview. Revan is a fallen Jedi Knight who turned to Sith and also redeemed himself back into the Jedi Order. He first appears in the Knights of the Old Republic video game by BioWare in 2003. He is born in the Outer Rim territories roughly 4,000 years before the events of the movies or before Battle of Yavin, which is episode 4. We know that from the beginning, he is a Jedi with great Force abilities from early age. And he trained with a Twi'lek master, Zar Liston, on Coruscant as well as at Dantooine Jedi Enclave. He was frustrated with the Republic government and the forces for inaction against the Mandalorian New Crusaders and when they started invading the galaxy. He assembled a crew of like-minded Jedi individuals who grew in numbers and became his loyal followers, turning into a whole Jedi army, and he actually called the Jedi Council to action, and he said, this is our time to act. We may not remain impassive. We have to do something about this. So he was proclaimed as a Jedi's own crusader, and even created his own faction called the Revankist, or Revanchist. Not exactly sure how to pronounce that. He actually disobeyed the Jedi Council, and he went ahead and he rallied the troops to fight against the Mandalorian Neo Crusaders. He also had his close ally and friend called Malak. So both Jedi friends become very distant from the Jedi Councils, and what they do is they react to the way that the Mandalorians fight in war, which are very brutal and vicious tactics, and basically the Jedi respond in kind. And this is where it slowly starts taking them down to the dark path. Their quest to defeat their foe leads to an ancient Sith empire, and the Emperor Vitiate dominates their mind. Both fall to the dark side, but they're actually very powerful Jedi abilities allow them to break free of his mind control. Early on in the story, Revan discovers a Rakatan ancient ruin on Dantooine, which is actually right next to the Jedi Enclave, and he leads them on this quest to find the ancient star map. He traverses the galaxy, he goes to different planets, to secret locations, and he pieces this map together bit by bit. And this is when he discovers the ancient Starforge, which is the legacy of the Rakata Empire, which thrived 20,000 years before that. And the legacy of these ancient conquerors is this weapon, this huge battle station with purposes which are not fully revealed to Revan or Malak. And this is when Revan starts waging war against the Jedi. He disagrees with the way that the Republic has been conducting itself, and he thinks that, of course, he can rule the galaxy in his own fashion. At the same time, Malak becomes very resentful, and he also lusts for power, and he wants to overthrow his master. As later on we'll learn, later on Bane creates this rule of 2, and we see that this becomes a dynamic between the Sith apprentice and his master, where the student always tries to outmatch, overpower his master and kill him and take on new apprentice, and this is how the chain of the Sith is supposed to go, unbroken. Only 2 there shall remain. So the Jedi set a trap for Revan. They send a strike team led by this young and capable Jedi called Bastila Shan, and she carries with her this special ability, this power of battle meditation, where she can rally the troops around her, whether they're force sensitives or not, and be extremely efficient in battle. So she actually defeats Revan in combat, and she takes his body, right? He's heavily wounded, he's near death, and he also has amnesia, and he's in a comatose state. She brings him back to Dantooine, and this is where the Jedi Council decides to use his memories to try to defeat the Sith. They try to learn all of their secrets and tactics, and they actually use the Revan for that. So later on, they start traveling aboard Bastila's flagship called Endor Spire. And Revan now is this question mark. He doesn't have an identity. He has no memories or recollections of who he is. Basically a classic video game trope later on. Obviously, you guys, many of you know that he is a character that originates in a video game. And his only identity is as this Republic soldier. And this is where Darth Malak, his former apprentice, strikes. So the crew actually escapes to a nearby planet of Taris, and this is where Revan begins to have these visions. His connection to Bastila Shan, his previous images of the past that he can't quite piece together, and it leads all of the party back to Dantooine, where the journey of self-discovery and redemption begins for him. Once again, he's reunited with the Jedi Council, and they say, this is what you must do to take the necessary steps. And of course, the identity of Revan is not revealed to him immediately. It's a slow and arduous journey, and as the process of interacting with Bastila Shan and all other party members, that's where he slowly regains his memories. So the quest for completing the Starforge map begins again. It leads Revan and his friends back to, through many different planets like Kashyyyk and Manan, back to this unknown world. And this is where the final showdown with Malak happens and the destruction of the Starforge facility. Revan marries Bastila at the end, and he disappears before he's called back into action. So this is actually a very trimmed down, narrow version of Revan's story. Obviously, there's a lot more stuff going on there, and I can't fit all of it into one video. The purpose is just to give you guys a taste for this character. Next, let's talk about Revan's personality as well as his Jedi powers. It's interesting because, as I mentioned before, for those of you who may come across this name only vaguely and you actually don't know a lot about this character, he originates from a BioWare's video game Knights of the Old Republic, which came out on the original Xbox way back in 2003. And it's funny because his personality is actually shaped and dictated by the player, which is a signature BioWare staple. This is what this gaming company was known for, developing video games where you actually lead your character on a journey and you actually shape and tailor his personality according to what you wish to see. This is what they do with their Baldur's Games titles, and this is true for the Knights of the Old Republic video games as well. But we also know a lot about him from the consequent novels that come out and canonization of Revan as a character. And, you know, in the books, they start addressing him as a he, as a male, even though you actually get to pick his gender in the video game. So what we know about him is that early on, his Twi'lek master, Zar Liston, described Revan as a very dedicated student with insatiable hunger for knowledge. We also know that Revan is remarkably intelligent. He has exceptional charisma and military genius. He also has leadership skills to rally Jedi compatriots against the Mandalorians. So you might kind of deduce that to take this kind of ability to lead Jedi, to lead them astray, take them away from the Jedi teachings and the Jedi Council, and go onto this quest, a quest of destruction and battles, he had to be a very charismatic person. As a Sith, he becomes more cold and calculating. We know that he's strong-willed, and this is how he was able to break free from the Sith Emperor's Vitiate's mind control. When he is reborn as a Jedi, he has a great sense of justice. He has a lot of compassion, and I guess as a sense of redemption that he needs to amend for his past sins, he believes that he needs to serve the others and help his friends a lot. There's a very fun moment in the video game on Kashyyyk when, as you go on to assemble the pieces of the Starforge map, Revan encounters this Rakata ancient computer machine, and he tries to access it. And it's funny because his identity is not being recognized by the machine, even though he interfaced with it years before as Revan, as the Sith Lord. And because he becomes an entirely different person after his amnesia, the machine doesn't recognize him any longer. He doesn't fit the criteria for a Sith Lord, for somebody who accessed it before. Kind of indicating that there's a great transformation of character happening there. But at the same time, Revan remains a Jedi Maverick. You know, he relies on his strong positive emotions, and he believes that Jedi indeed should form attachments, and it's actually a good thing. And this is where he falls in love with Bastila Shan. You know, they become allies early on, but later on they fall in love and they actually marry each other. And it's funny that throughout his years as a Jedi and also as a Sith, he maintained his sense of humor. There's one episode in the story where the assassin droid HK-47 calls his student Malak a meatbag. And Revan is so taken with that joke, he enjoys it so much that he instructs the droid to call every human being from that point forward a meatbag, which I found quite amusing and very interesting. As far as the Jedi abilities go, we know that Revan he's basically broken. He's a very, very powerful character. He's very skilled with acrobatic lightsaber fighting techniques. He knows how to redirect blaster fire. He also has this precognition gift where obviously he can't see entirely into the future, but he can sense and predetermine what his opponent's next move is going to be. We also know that he's very skilled with firearms as a Republic soldier. Obviously, when you play the first part of the video game, the entire Tyrus planet, you don't get a lightsaber. And you actually have to rely on firearms or cold bladed weapons, which, for example, I chose for my run to be a dual gun specialist. And that's what Revan is. Basically, it's tailored to the video game how the player chose to play. We know that Revan is also, once again, I mentioned it before, broken. Guys, you don't even know the first thing about this. He has extraordinary skills with the Force. We know that he could channel light side and dark side simultaneously, which gave him unprecedented powers. You could say in a way that he achieved that gray Jedi ability, which, you know, within the Star Wars fandom, a Jedi who follows neither the light side or the dark side, but embraces both in order to maintain balance in the Force, they are called the Gray Jedi. I don't think there's any kind of canonical or licensed naming to that. That's entirely a creation from fans. But basically, Revan fits into that formula because he's so powerful with both, and he was able to juggle and master both. We know that Revan greatly enhances his strength, his speed, his acrobatics with channeling both sides of the Force. Again, making him like a physical powerhouse. We know that he also relies on telekinesis, and he always throws his lightsaber and his opponents quite a lot in battles. He also has mind control, and he was able to influence his subordinates. To a point, actually, an ability that we'll later see in Star Wars sequels. Remember when Kylo Ren extracts information from Poe Dameron? Well, actually, Revan had the same abilities. He could actually steal secrets and knowledge from his victims. We know that he also has a great sense to feel the living beings around him. He can sense danger. He can kind of have precognitive sense of what the future is about to bring. Obviously, it's never certain, just like Yoda says, always in motion the future is, but Revan nonetheless has that ability where it gives him advantage and he knows how to act to respond to future events. Obviously, he is, as a Sith Lord, he was also very powerful with the Force Lightning, but not just that, he also masters this ability called the Force Storms. Thank God we don't see a lot of that in the actual video game because, again, it would make him just broken. He's so powerful as a Sith Lord. And he can actually absorb and redirect energy around him. Again, like ultimate attack powers, ultimate shields and defenses. Like, where is the Revan's weakness? It's nowhere to be found. And one of the most powerful abilities that he has is that when he is defeated and his body is basically decaying and dying, he channels and taps into the dark side of the Force and his aggression and hatred so much that he literally wills his body to go on living. Even though his light side of his spirit, his soul, is gone, his dark side maintains life, and he actually survives and lives in this body for centuries to go on. Quite insane. But when the light and the dark sides reunite in him and he attains that balance once again, this is when his physical body vanishes. This is his abilities in a nutshell. Once again, guys, a great character with a great story, but quite overpowered, as you could see. If you disagree, please let me know in the video comments below. So what was my impression of Revan when I first encountered him, like millions of fans around the world with the 2003 video game Knights of the Old Republic? Well, the game was actually a very fun way to interact with the character because, in essence, he was me. I shaped the character. I made all the decisions. This is where my love for BioWare video games comes from. It makes you feel like you're in the game. So in a way, what is Revan? He was many things to me. Sometimes he could be a baddie. I could choose a dark side of the path, and this is how I beat the game. Or I could choose a light side of the path, and play it as a good guy. So at the end of it, also, we got the video gamers were treated to one of the greatest plot twists in gaming history. One of them was actually from Castlevania Symphony of the Night, where you beat the entire game, and then you found out that you flipped the castle and you get the entire map of the game reversed and you get to play through it again. People were literally blown away. Well, here comes Knights of the Old Republic. And towards the very end of the game, it is revealed that the opponent that you're fighting, Malak, and his master Revan, this Sith Lord, where he's nowhere to be found, he's presumed dead, it is actually you. You just can't imagine, guys, what it felt like in 2003 without any YouTube, without grand spoilers around, because the only way that you got video gaming news was through magazines, which you had to wait for a month to release. And all of us were playing it concurrently. I was in college back in the day, and I started playing this video game. And when you get to the end, it's such a raw and powerful feeling, especially when it's not spoiled for you. I also enjoyed Revan's very dynamic story. He begins off as this charismatic young Jedi Knight, but obviously he has this compulsion. He wants to do right by the galaxy. He wants to defeat the Mandalorians, the bad guys, and he thinks that he knows better. This is a trope that a lot of young Jedi Knights follow, and unfortunately they fall to the dark side, just like Anakin Skywalker, just like Ulic Qel-Droma, one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time, which are from the Kevin J. Anderson's Tales of the Jedi comic books. So it's a very, very interesting trope. And then, of course, he falls to the dark side. He has that classic video game amnesia, but then he recovers from it. And it's actually quite a journey because it takes step by step by step. And every decision that you make in this BioWare video game leads you either back to the dark path or back to the light side, depending on how you choose to play. So the journey felt quite earned. And if you chose the light side of the path, it felt that his restoration as a Jedi was very much earned. And of course, he had an awesome design. You have these black Jedi robes, this Jedi cape, something akin to what we saw a couple years earlier in 1999 with Phantom Menace, when Darth Maul jumped onto these theatrical screens as basically the space ninja or space samurai with these flowing dark robes. He was such an awesome design. Revan kind of took that, played around with the idea, and added a Mandalorian mask to him, which again blew everybody away. Like, whoa, who is this guy? Is he a Mandalorian who turns to an evil Sith Lord and then becomes a Jedi? We all wanted to find out what he's all about. Just fantastic, fantastic character. So what do I hope to see in the future? Obviously, we know that we have the announcement of the Knights of the Old Republic full remake by a German studio called Asper Media. So there's so much potential there. There's so many things that they could do. My first and foremost wish is that they expand on the character. They give us more scenes with him. They give us more story details. They give us more, small, minute details that kind of like reveal who he is, give us like insight into what leads him to his decisions, what are his character motivations, what are his interactions with his friends. And of course, I obviously want to see a lot more gameplay. I really hope that they expand the scope of the game. Add a planet or two. It doesn't have to be a planet where the next Starforge map is. If you don't want to deviate a lot from the canon of the game and not disrupt the story that it was actually created by BioWare, what you could do is add additional planets that may not necessarily have a Starforge map, that are just optional planets, or planets that you have to go to maybe because your ship was shot down. Something, you could make an interesting excuse that fits and is tailored into the existing story in a very skilled way. Also introduce some new characters that, this Revan character could interact with, and you see a new side of him that we haven't seen before. Also, many of you guys know that in the Clone Wars animated show in Season 3, there was an episode called The Ghost of Mortis, where we see one of the Sith Lords from Star Wars video games and books, Darth Bane, actually come back and, show himself and be officially canonized by George Lucas. Well, in the one edit of that episode, Revan was supposed to appear. His ghost was supposed to be in that episode, but he actually never made it into the final cut. So we almost kind of sort of got to that point where Revan was officially canonized, because as you know, the Clone Wars animated show is considered part of the new Disney Star Wars canon. So maybe they'll have a future show where they can reveal Revan once again and say, show his spectral form and say he's indeed a canon character. But obviously, maybe I'm asking for too much. I think an ideal situation would be for Disney and Lucasfilm to recognize the Old Republic online video game as canonical. Why? Because it has a huge fandom. After 10 years, it's stronger than ever. They're still actually releasing new storylines and new content for the video game. Imagine that. You know, for those fans who say, oh, you know, they cut off Legends material and it doesn't exist anymore. Look at the video game. Just this year, they released a brand new DLC pack with new storyline, new adventures there, and it's a Legends video game. You might as well say, you know what, fans enjoy it so much, we have not created a lot of story with the new Star Wars video games or comics or books that pertain to that era. We might as well adapt what already exists there. And that would actually set a precedent and say, well, now we also have Disney Plus, and we actually are very experimental with that. We create a lot of shows there like Visions, which are not necessarily canonical. It's just fun Star Wars stories that fans enjoy. What if they actually take the Knights of the Old Republic, particularly the Old Republic video game CGI cutscene directors, which are known around the internet. All Star Wars fans have seen them. I'm pretty sure you guys have as well. They are absolutely brilliant. So you take that very mature, very photorealistic take on Star Wars animation, fully CGI, bring it on Disney Plus, and create a Star Wars show which is actually geared more towards adults, and it features the Old Republic and Revan and Malak and all these wonderful characters. Anyway, guys, you let me know what you hope to see with Revan in the future. With basically, is he going to be a canon with this new remake of the game or not? I would like to hear all of this from you guys. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. All of your attention really helps me a lot, guys. All of your supportive words, and I'll keep making contents like this. I'll see you guys later. Take care.